No, they don't. Of course, they don't have an advantage, and obviously, I don't really look at the injuries that much on both teams. At this point in the season, everybody's banged up, everybody's hurt. If you played any significant amount of minutes, obviously, a injury could happen. Like if Tyler Hero, if he hurt his hamstring there, that can happen. But everybody's banged up right now. The Heat do not have an advantage, but the Celtics are in a must-win situation tonight, where they have to win tonight. I don't think they can take the chance of going down 3-1 to the Miami Heat and coming out this series. I think it'll be too difficult for them to win 3 games in a row. The Miami Heat are too good defensively, and Eric Spoelstra is too good of a coach to lose 3 games in a row. So I'll put this game on a must-win situation for the Celtics to even this thing up, especially if Tyler Hero's not playing. Now, granted, Tyler Hero's not been great this playoffs, being that he's only averaging 13 points, a guy that's obviously the 6th man of the year that's averaged 20 points a game. So they're going to have to try to figure out ways to get different scoring from some other guys. This may be Duncan Robinson's night. You put him in the lineup and see if he can get going. We know he hasn't played much throughout the playoffs, and Victor Oladipo has to be a lot better as well offensively, only shooting 24% from the field in the playoffs, but he was great defensively in that fourth quarter in Game 3. So the advantage is not the Heat. Really the advantage is the Celtics when you look at the injuries that Miami has and what they're going through. And Kyle Lowry missed 2 games. Jimmy Butler didn't play the second half. Now Tyler Hero's not about to play, not going to play in Game 4. So the advantage is really to the Celtics, and can they take advantage of this?
Antoine, I'm with you. The only advantage that the Miami Heat have right now is the fact that they are up 2-1 in the series. But if I look at the 3 games that have been played, it is really extraordinary that the Miami Heat are up 2-1 in the series. Game 1, Celtics are without both Marcus Smart and Al Horford, and yet had a chance to win that game. Game 2, Boston Celtics are at full strength, and they win going away. Game 3, they come back home, and I'm thinking they're going to put a stranglehold on the series, and they commit 23 turnovers. I mean, they could not have been sloppier and more overconfident coming home, and they still had a chance to win the game. So I look at the Boston Celtics, and if they just come correct, the matchups and the advantages that they have are just overwhelming in my mind, particularly if it comes down to a last possession type game. Again, I admire the hell out of what Jimmy Butler has done, but Tyler Hero was their leading scorer during the regular season, 6th man of the year coming off the bench. That's where they're compromised. If they have a lead, their defense is so good that they can shut you down or they can win a game in the fourth quarter. But if they have to play from behind or it's a possession-by-possession game, the advantage goes to the Boston Celtics just because of the array of weapons that they have. So when I size it up, look, no offense to the Miami Heat. They've had a great season, but they've had a great season because they maximize what they're capable of doing. And much like the Golden State Warriors, they are not going to beat themselves. You are going to have to beat them. But the Celtics have the requisite pieces, tools, and talent to be able to do that when everybody's healthy. And so I still expect the Boston Celtics to win this series.
I'm with you. I echo those last words. I expect the Celtics to win this series. The Heat only have one advantage, and we all know it. It's the obvious advantage. They're up in this series. But we've seen a lot of ball, played a lot of ball. And there always are 2 scoreboards. One that adds up the points that tells you who won the game, who lost the game. But there's another one psychologically, which you also play, which controls momentum, which controls your belief. And you can outperform someone and still lose. This is what's happening to the Celtics right now. They're playing those 2 scoreboards, and they got caught slipping. They got caught in this trap. Collectively, the Celtics noticed and told themselves that they're better than the Heat. instead of showing the Heat that they're better than the Heat. And when you start going through those situations, you give away a game or you give away a moment, you give away an opportunity. Because we all know, oh, man, we lost game one. We could have won game one, but we didn't have Marcus Smart. So you start playing those mental games. And what happens? It catches up to you in game three. Now, the Celtics in game two looked on fire in Miami. So now they're playing with their food when they come back home to Boston. These are all the trappings of a young team or a team on the verge of trying to create a championship team. So as they're growing through these growing pains, you're starting to see these missteps. But to Slick's last point, all of the matchups favored the Boston Celtics. They're out shooting them. They're scoring more points a game. They're out rebounding them. They should be up in this series. And I think they know that. The problem is now you got to go out there and show that.
Well, you got to look at this. The Heat took advantage of Robert Williams being out in game three and decided Bam had a monster game with 31 points, and they really attacked them inside. That's important. So in this series, with all these guys going in and out the lineup, you don't know who's playing, who's not playing. Could really come down to this series. Who's going to take advantage of these moments? And right now, it seems like the Heat are a little bit more banged up than the Boston Celtics because the Boston Celtics look like they got the best doctors in the world. The way Marcus Smart went to the locker room, came back out. Jason Tatum went to the locker room, came back out. So I'm thinking that the Celtics are fairly healthy for the most part. I know they're saying injury report, but I think the team that can take advantage of these mistakes, or these guys missing time or missing games, because look at game one. Marcus Smart, Al Horford both do not play. Miami Heat win. They get the full strength in game two. They get blown out the building. Game three, Marcus Smart out the game, takes a couple series off. Then you got Jason Tatum left the game. Miami took advantage of those opportunities when those guys were out the game. Robert Williams doesn't play. They get dominated inside. So it's about team. This is going to be a tight series. This is a must-win tonight for the Celtics. I cannot overstate that enough. They have to win tonight, or Miami will take advantage of that and get out the series and be headed to the finals.
Agree, Antoine, and it's why I do not expect the Boston Celtics to downshift again, as they did in game three. Marcellus, you said it exactly right. They go down to Miami, and they had something to prove in game two. Yes, they felt like in game one, hey, we would have won this if we had Marcus Smart and we had Al Horford. Well, but you have to go and prove it, which they did decisively in game two.
Yep.
So now you're coming home, and you're thinking, okay, we're at full strength. We know we have all advantages against Miami, and they forgot to play the actual game. Yes, Marcus Smart was out some, Jason Tatum was out, but the casualness with which they played, both offensively and defensively, you can't not only turn the ball over as many times as they did, but the points off of transition, because they weren't getting back and defending with any urgency, also undermined them. I will be very shocked if I take a step back and I look at what Ime Udoka has instilled in this team over the course of the season and the mindset that they've had and how they have responded to every challenge to this point, Milwaukee Bucks included. I just can't imagine that this Boston Celtics team is not going to take that Game 3 performance and result as a referendum, and that they're not going to step back again in this series or, as I expect, in this playoff run to the finals.
Yes. This team responds. This team will respond. As you said, the Celtics down 2-1 and 3-2 to Milwaukee, and they responded in that series, and those were the champions. Remember, Jason Tatum had 46 when they were down 3-2 to even out that series. Jason Tatum also has responded from games against Brooklyn when he had bad games. 19 points next game, game 3, 39 points. 10 points next game, 30 points. So Jason Tatum, when he has an off game, you should expect an on game. But let's talk about these Boston Celtics right now, because that mental play right now is the only thing that's stopping them in this series. I don't think it's the matchup against the Miami Heat. I think it's just them competing against themselves and what they believe in terms of what they see from the Miami Heat. Because in life, you can't lie to yourself. You can lie to others, but you can't lie to yourself. And this is why we practice so damn much. I always used to question, why are we practicing so much the same play over and over again? You got to create habits that are going to supersede the moment. So here we go. When you're facing a lesser opponent, you got to rely on your professionalism in those habits. Because if not, you're going to lie and say, man, they sorry. And you're going to go out there and give a sorry effort because you know you can beat them. And then it comes back to bite you. That's what the Boston Celtics going right now. They need to work on those professional habits that I know that they're being coached because they are a well-coached team. If not, they're going to just let this opportunity slip by. But Tatum responds, the Celtics respond. I expect them to not only even out this series, but like you said, Slick, end up winning this series.